Toma stood still in the grand hall of the alien palace. He was a young human, quiet and respectful, chosen as part of Earth's peace group. The walls around him shimmered in soft blue light. The floor was smooth like glass and strange golden. Leaves hung from the ceiling like decorations. The air smelled like flowers and something sweet he couldn't name. The aliens of this world were called the Moranal. They were tall and graceful, with skin in gentle silver and teal colors. Their eyes were large and calm. Toma found them peaceful and kind, even if they were very different from humans. Today was special. The Queen of Velari was going to speak. She was a respected leader, wise, calm, and always smiling in a quiet way. Everyone stood when she entered the room. Toma bowed as she stepped forward. Her long robes floated behind her like they had a life of their own. She looked at the human visitors, then stopped and looked right at Toma. "Toma of Earth," she said, her voice gentle but strong. "We have watched your kindness. You listen before you speak. You help even when no one is looking." Toma blinked in surprise. He didn't think anyone noticed. He had only helped a few workers carry supplies or clean up after meals. The Queen continued, "Because of this, I ask you to stay with us in the palace." Gasps filled the room. Even the other humans looked at each other in surprise. The Queen raised one hand, and everyone fell silent again. "I wish for you to live here," she said calmly, "with my daughter, Mira." Toma's heart began to race. Live with the princess? He wasn't ready for that. He wasn't rich, or important, or smart. He was just him. He bowed again, a little shaky. "Your Majesty, may I ask why?" The Queen smiled, a small, knowing smile. "Because both of you can learn from each other. Mira has lived her life inside the palace, among our own. She has not seen much beyond Velari. And you, Toma, come from a world so different. You carry the warmth of your people. That balance may help both of you grow." Toma looked across the hall. At the far side stood the Queen's daughter. Mira. She had long dark teal hair tied with silver thread. Her skin was a soft pale tone with a light shimmer. Her eyes met his for a moment, calm, unreadable, but not unkind. Then she looked away. The Queen stepped down from her platform and stood close to Toma. "I did not force you," she said quietly. "But if you agree, the palace will become your home. You will be safe. You will be free. But your task will be simple: live, learn, and share." Toma felt the weight of the moment. Round him, everyone waited for his answer. He nodded slowly. "I will stay." The Queen's eyes closed gently, pleased. "So it begins." Later that day, Toma was taken to his new room inside the palace. A Moranal guide named Lovi showed him the way. "This is the East Wing," Lovi said in a friendly tone. "The royal family lives here. Your room is next to the princess's." Toma blinked. "Next to hers?" Lovi nodded with a small smile. "Yes, the Queen said it would help both of you get used to each other." The room was large, with soft white walls and floating lights that glowed like stars. A window looked out onto a garden filled with glowing flowers and tall silver trees. Toma set his small bag on the smooth bed. He still couldn't believe what was happening. He hadn't even spoken to Mira yet. As if someone heard his thoughts, a soft knock came at the door. He opened it. There she was, Princess Mira. She stood with a straight back, hands lightly folded. In front of her, she looked at him with curious eyes. "I came to see if you arrived," she said. Double quotes, "Yes." Toma said, unsure what else to say. "Thank you." They stood in silence for a few seconds. "I didn't ask for this," Mira said. Calmly. Toma nodded. "I didn't either." She tilted her head. "But you agreed." "I did," he said. "Because maybe it's a good thing. We don't know yet." Mira blinked, surprised by the answer. She nodded once. "You're not like the others." "I get that a lot," Toma said softly. A tiny smile appeared on her face, not wide, but real. "Well, good night then." "Good night," he replied. She turned and walked away. Toma closed the door gently. He leaned back against it and let out a breath. What had he just agreed to? That night, he sat near the window, watching the alien stars. Back home on Earth, he had been one of the quiet ones, not the strongest, not the leader. But here, something had changed. The queen had chosen him. The princess had noticed something. And now, he was part of something larger than he had ever expected. He looked at the glowing. Toma woke up early the next morning. The bed was soft, the room quiet. A gentle light filled the space, like a warm morning sun, though the sky outside was a soft purple. He got dressed slowly, choosing simple clothes from the set the palace had given him. The fabric felt smooth and light, different from Earth clothes, but very comfortable. When he stepped out of his room, he saw no one in the hallway. It was wide and shining, with pictures on the walls, paintings of stars, old kings, and queens, and long, graceful creatures with wings. He walked carefully, unsure where to go. Soon, he reached the dining room. A few palace workers nodded to him and led him to a seat. The table was round and made of light-colored stone. Food was already served, bowls of fruits that sparkled like gems, bread that was soft and blue, and drinks in tall glasses. Toma took small bites. The taste was sweet, then cool, then slightly salty. He smiled. Strange, but good, he said to himself. Just then, he heard soft footsteps. He looked up. It was Mira, the princess. She sat across the table, not speaking. She wore a simple robe with silver threads. Her long teal hair was loose this time, falling gently over her shoulders. They ate in silence for a while. Finally, Toma spoke. Good morning. Mira gave a small nod. Good morning. He smiled. I didn't expect the food to sparkle. Mira glanced at him, almost smiling. It comes from a tree that grows under the moons. The light makes it shine. That's amazing, Toma said. Earth fruits don't glow. I know, Mira replied. I read about your world. Everything there's loud and full of color. Toma laughed softly. Yes, and sometimes too loud. Mira looked at him carefully. You don't act like most humans I've seen in the news. I'm just me, he said. I like quiet places. I like to watch. I don't talk too much. I noticed, Mira said, then added. That's not a bad thing. They didn't speak more after that, but something felt different. A small door had opened. Later that day, Toma decided to explore the garden. It was behind the palace, filled with tall trees and soft glowing flowers. Some of the trees moved gently, even when there was no wind. Birds with long tails and soft voices flew above. Toma walked slowly, stopping to look at every plant. He found a small bench near a silver pond. The water was still and clear. He sat there for a while, just watching the sky. Why do you sit so quietly? A voice asked behind him. He turned. It was Mira again. Toma smiled. I like to notice small things. She tilted her head. Like what? He pointed. Like how that bird keeps dipping its wing in the water, or how the flowers close a little when the sun hides. Mira came closer and looked. She said nothing at first, then sat down beside him, a careful space between them. I used to come here as a child, she said softly. Before my tutor left. Did you like him? Toma asked. He was kind. He told stories. He said learning doesn't always come from books. Toma nodded. That sounds like someone I would like. Mira looked at him. You're strange. He laughed. You're not the first to say that. This time, she smiled. Not a tiny one, but a full one. It was soft and real. The next few days passed slowly but peacefully. Toma started helping in small ways around the palace. He cleaned dishes without being asked. He helped an elder Morano reach for books in the library. He even fixed a light near the hallway using tools from Earth. Every time Mira saw him doing something like this, she didn't speak, but she watched. One evening, Toma was reading in the garden when Mira walked in. You fix things, she said simply. Toma looked up. I try. Why? He closed the book. Because it feels right. She sat down beside him. You're not trying to impress anyone, no, he said. I just don't like to sit and do nothing when I can help. Mira looked at the stars above. My people value calm. We move slowly, think long. You act faster. Is that bad? She shook her head. Not always. Toma thought for a moment. Maybe we're just two ways of seeing the same sky. Mira turned to him. Her eyes softened. That's a beautiful thought. That night, the queen watched from her private room. A hidden screen showed the garden. She saw her daughter sitting beside the human, not too close, but not far. They were speaking gently, calmly, no sharp words, no forced smiles, just quiet understanding. The queen leaned back in her chair. This, she whispered to herself, was the right choice. Toma returned to his room and looked out the window again. The stars above were soft and slow, like they were thinking too. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know if Mira would ever truly trust him, but he felt something had changed just a little, and sometimes a little is the beginning of something big. Toma woke up feeling peaceful. The days in the palace were becoming more familiar now. The air smelled like soft flowers, and the warm lights through his window reminded him of sunrise back on Earth. He had begun to feel something else to dash curiosity. He wanted to understand more about this world. The people, the trees, the sky, and also Mira. That afternoon, Toma asked one of the elder servants, a kind Morano woman named Vela, if there were quiet places around the palace no one used. Vela smiled gently. There's a place, long ago. It was Princess Mira's favorite, but now no one goes there. Why not? Toma asked. It holds old memories, she said, good ones, but also quiet sadness. She gave him directions and touched his shoulder softly. If you go gently. Toma nodded and followed the path through the east garden, past a line of silver-leaf trees, and down a narrow stone walkway. The air felt cooler here, quiet. Soon, he reached a small wooden gate covered in soft green vines. He gently pushed. It opened. The space beyond was beautiful. It was a garden, but different from the others. Everything here grew wild and free. Vines climbed up curved walls. Purple and gold flowers spilled over the stones. A small fountain stood in the middle, no longer working, but still full of clear water. There was a tree in the corner, its branches low, and its leaves soft blue. Toma walked slowly, taking it all in. He saw that the garden had once been cared for with love. Small stones made winding paths. A circle of flat rocks formed a sitting space near the tree, but it had been many seasons since someone touched it. He knelt beside the tree and gently pulled some old leaves away from its roots. Then he picked up a broken pot nearby and began cleaning. Not because anyone told him to, but because the place deserved it. Mira stepped outside for a walk. Her thoughts quiet. She often walked the palace halls when she wanted to think, but this time, something in the air felt different. A breeze passed through with a soft smell, a smell she hadn't felt in years. She followed the breeze, past the old silver trees, down the stone path she hadn't walked since childhood. Her heart beat faster with each step. She reached the gate. It was open. She stepped inside the garden slowly. There, in the middle of the space, stood Toma. His back was to her. He was gently fixing the base of the old fountain, brushing away dirt with his hands. He turned, surprised. Oh, hello. Double quotes. Mira looked around. You found it. I asked for a quiet place. They said this was once yours. Mira walked forward, her eyes scanning everything. I haven't been here in a long time. Why not? He asked. She touched the low tree gently. I used to sit under this with my tutor. He told stories. He taught me how to listen to the wind. Toma smiled. That sounds nice. It was, she said softly. Then he became ill, and after he passed, I stopped coming here. Toma didn't say anything. He just nodded and continued brushing dust off a small stone bench. Mira watched him. You're cleaning it, she said. It deserves care, he replied. It looks like a place full of memories. Mira walked slowly through the garden. She touched a vine, sat on one of the flat rocks. Do you do this on Earth? She asked. Fix broken places. Sometimes, Toma said. Sometimes people forget places that once mattered. I like finding them again. She looked at him. This garden, I thought I'd never come back. And now? He asked. She took a breath. Now I'm glad I did. The two of them spent the next hour together in the garden. They didn't speak much, but there was no need. Toma worked quietly, and Mira began pulling old leaves from the pond's edge. She dipped her hands in the cool water, remembering how she used to float little paper boats there. Toma smiled. You should bring that back. Maybe show me how. Mira raised an eyebrow. You want to fold paper boats? Sure, he said. If it makes you smile, it's worth it. Mira looked at him with soft eyes. You're strange, Toma. You keep saying that. He laughed. She shook her head gently. Strange is not bad. It just means different. As the sky turned soft orange, the two walked back to the main palace together. At the door to her wing, Mira stopped. Thank you, she said. For what? Toma asked. For not asking too many questions. For not forcing me to talk. For just being quiet with me. Toma smiled. Some things don't need many words. She gave a small nod and walked into her room, leaving the door slightly open behind her. Later that evening, Toma sat in his room, looking at the stars again. But this time, he felt something new, a connection, not just to the palace, or the garden, or the stars above, but to Mira. It wasn't friendship yet, maybe not even understanding, but it was the start of something real. And for now, that was enough. Toma stood in the palace kitchen, holding a round fruit that looked like a glowing peach. He squinted at it, sniffed it, then turned it upside down. Behind him, Mira leaned against the wall with her arms crossed. What are you doing? She asked, with a curious tone. Trying to make something that tastes like breakfast from Earth, Toma said. I think this fruit is close to something we call peach, but it smells more like mint. Mira raised an eyebrow. You want to cook? Toma grinned. Not really cook, more like experiment. He placed the fruit on a smooth silver plate. Around him were a few other ingredients, small blueberries, soft bread from the palace, and a yellow cream that tasted like honey. He mixed them all together, slowly, carefully. It was messy, but he looked focused and calm. Mira walked closer. Your food doesn't look like our food. That's because I don't really know what I'm doing, Toma admitted with a laugh. She tilted her head. Then why do it? He looked at her. Because it reminds me of home, and maybe it can show you a little bit of where I come from. Toma handed her a small plate. Mira looked at the strange mix of colors. The fruit was sliced neatly. The cream was placed in little circles. It wasn't perfect, but it looked thoughtful. She picked up a piece and tasted it. Her eyes widened. It's strange. Bad strange or good strange? She chewed slowly, then nodded. Good strange. Toma smiled. They sat at the kitchen table, eating quietly. I never thought aliens would eat human food, he said, or that I'd be serving it to a princess. Mira looked at him. I never thought a human would clean my garden or teach me about paper boats. You haven't even folded one yet, Toma said. I will, she replied. One day, later that day, they sat in the library. The palace library was huge, filled with books made of thin glowing sheets. Each book held stories, science, music, and history of Valari. Toma held one open, eyes wide. This is amazing, he said. Your stories are like poems? Mira nodded. That's how we speak when we want to share something from the heart. Toma pulled out a small book from his own bag. It was old and worn, with a faded blue cover. What's that? Mira asked. A storybook from Earth. One my sister gave me. He opened it and began to read. It's about a boy who finds a strange flower and follows it to a hidden land. Mira listened quietly. The words were simple, but the story was full of feeling. I understand now, she said after he stopped. Why you wanted to make food. Why you fix things. Why you sit quietly in gardens. Toma looked at her. It's the human way, she said. You don't push. You don't rush. You feel first, then act. He smiled. I think your way is like that too. Just a little slower. She gave a soft laugh. Perhaps. The next day, Mira brought something wrapped in cloth to the garden. Toma was already there, trimming a vine. She sat down beside him. You said you'd teach me something. Toma looked at the cloth. What's that? She opened it. Paper. Smooth and white. Toma's eyes lit up. You remembered. He showed her how to fold it carefully. Step by step, first a square, then a triangle, then to sides bent inward. after a few tries. Mira folded her first paper boat. It's not perfect. She said, it floats, he replied. That's what matters. They placed it in the small pond. It moved slowly, gently, across the surface. Mira watched it, her face calm. Toma looked at her. You're learning the human way. She turned to him, and you're learning ours. That evening, the queen called for them. They stood before her, side by side. I've been watching, the queen said. From afar, of course. Toma and Mira looked at each other, a little surprised. The queen smiled. You've both changed, grown. You've shared parts of yourselves, not through force, but through time. Mira spoke first. Toma does not try to lead. He simply walks beside. Toma added, and Mira doesn't hide. She just listens longer. The queen nodded slowly. Good. This is what I hoped for. Topaz becoming one. Not by command but by choice. She looked at them both. You may continue your journey together. No rules. No duties. Just learn. From each other. They bowed. Not just out of respect but out of something deeper. Gratitude. That night, back in the garden, Toma and Mira sat beside the pond. The paper boat was still floating. You know, Toma said softly, on Earth, we say the stars are full of wishes. Mira looked up. We say they are full of memory. Maybe both are true, he said. They sat quietly. Then Mira said, I'm glad you came. Toma looked at her. Me too. The moon above changed shape slowly, and the wind moved through the leaves. To people so different, from two worlds sat together in peace. And far above them, the stars listened in silence. The days in the palace passed gently. Toma and Mira spent more time together, sometimes walking through the silver gardens, sometimes reading in the quiet library, and sometimes just sitting near the pond, watching the water move slowly. Their silence was no longer empty. It was peaceful, comfortable. Toma had started to understand Mira's world, and Mira had begun to understand his heart. But something unexpected was about to happen. One morning, a royal guard came to Toma's room. The queen has asked for you. In the sky room, the guard said politely. Toma quickly got ready and followed the quiet hallways until he reached the sky room. It was a tall space with glass windows reaching up to the ceiling. The sky above looked close, like he could almost touch it. Mira was already there, standing beside her mother. The queen. Toma bowed. Your Majesty. The queen nodded gently. Toma. Mira, today, I asked something from both of you. Toma looked at Mira. She looked calm but curious. The queen continued. I wish to know what you have truly learned, not from the books, not from the stories, but from each other. Toma stood still. Was this a test? Mira asked softly. What do you mean, mother? I will speak with each of you alone, the queen said. You will answer one simple question. They both nodded. The queen smiled. Please wait outside, Toma. I will speak with Mira first. Toma waited outside the sky room, watching the clouds move slowly past the windows. His heart beat a little faster. He didn't know what the question was. He didn't know what Mira would say. After a few minutes, the door opened again. The queen's voice was soft. You may come in now. Toma entered. Mira was no longer in the room. He stood before the queen. Her eyes were kind, but steady. I have only one question, she said. Toma nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. She looked at him carefully. What have you learned about my daughter? Toma blinked. He wasn't expecting that. He took a breath and spoke slowly. She listens. Even when she says nothing, she listens. She feels things deeply, but she shows it in quiet ways. The queen said nothing, waiting for him to continue. She hides her heart behind silence, but not because she wants to. It's because she was taught to be strong, always. But when she smiles, really smiles, it's honest and rare. That makes it special. The queen's face remained calm. She sees the world in soft colors, Toma added. Not loud, not fast, but clear. She's not cold. She's just careful. The queen finally smiled. A soft, proud smile. Thank you, Toma, she said. You may go. Later that evening, The queen called them both to the starlight balcony. The moon above them was round and golden. The stars were bright, spread across the sky like tiny lamps. The queen stood between them, her voice calm. "I asked each of you the same question," she said, "and both of you gave honest answers." Mira turned her head slightly toward Toma. He did the same. The queen continued. "Mira said you are strange, but kind, that you make her feel seen in ways even her own people never have." Toma looked surprised, but said nothing. The queen looked at Mira, and Toma said that you are careful, not cold, that your silence is full of meaning. Mira lowered her gaze for a moment, then slowly looked back at Toma. The queen stepped back. "I no longer ask anything of either of you," she said. "Your time together began with my wish. Now, it will continue, or end, by your choice." Alone, the queen turned and walked back into the palace, leaving them alone under the stars. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Mira finally said, "I didn't know what to say when she asked me." Toma looked at her. "Me neither. But I just said what I felt," she added. He smiled. "That's what I did too." They leaned against the balcony rail. Side by side. Mira looked at the stars. "I used to think I didn't need anyone. That being alone made me strong. And now," Toma asked gently. She thought for a moment. "Now I think strength can also come from having someone beside you." Toma nodded slowly. "I'm not here because of a rule anymore. I'm here because I want to be." Mira turned toward him. "Then stay." Toma smiled. "I will." Mira looked out the window of the starship as it left the planet Valari behind. The stars stretched out like silver threads in the black sky. The ship hummed quietly beneath her feet, beside her. Toma smiled softly. "Soon, we'll be on Earth." Mira nodded, but her eyes held both excitement and worry. Earth was a place she had only heard about from stories and Toma's gentle words. Now, she would see it with her own eyes. When the ship landed, Mira stepped out carefully. The air smelled different, fresh, sharp, and full of life. The sky was bright blue, with soft white clouds drifting slowly. Toma took her hand gently. "Welcome to Earth." Mira looked around. The trees were tall and green, leaves moving with the soft wind. Birds sang in the distance. It was loud, but not in a way that hurt her ears. It was alive. She smiled for the first time in a long while. Toma led her to a small market in a nearby town. The place was full of colors and sounds, people talking, children laughing, vendors shouting prices. Mira looked around with wide eyes. The stalls were filled with strange fruits, fabrics, and trinkets. The smells were strong, spices, fresh bread, and something sweet. She felt a little overwhelmed. The noise, the smells, the many faces moving all around. Toma noticed her hesitation and squeezed her hand. "It's okay to feel lost." Mira took a deep breath. "It's very different." He smiled. "Different can be good." They walked slowly through the market. Mira watched as Toma talked with some of the people, his voice soft and calm. She saw how others smiled when they saw him. She tried to speak a few words of the local language, repeating after Toma. The people listened kindly and nodded. Mira felt warmth inside. She began to see the beauty in the chaos. Later, Toma took Mira to a quiet place, a small library filled with books and soft chairs. It smelled of paper and old wood. Mira sat down and opened a book. The pages were full of pictures and words she could not read, but the pictures told stories of Earth's past. Toma explained some of the stories, using simple words and gestures. Mira listened carefully, her eyes shining. "This place is peaceful," she said softly. "I like it." The next day, Toma showed Mira a park near a lake. The trees here were different from Valari, tall oaks with wide branches. They sat on a bench, watching the water ripple under the sunlight. Mira spoke quietly. "On Valari, we have quiet lakes too, but Earth's water feels different. It moves faster." Toma smiled. "Earth is full of energy. It never stays still." Mira nodded slowly. "I think I like that." As the days passed, Mira learned more about Earth. She tried new foods, bread with cheese, sweet fruits, and a drink called tea. Toma laughed when she tried a lemon for the first time. Mira's face puckered at the sour taste. She laughed too, a clear sound that surprised even herself. Together, they explored small towns, forests, and cities. Mira saw children playing, families gathering, and people helping one another. She realized Earth was not perfect, but it was full of life and heart. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Mira and Toma lay on the grass, looking up at the sky. The stars here look different, Mira said. Toma nodded. They are the same, but seen from a different place. She smiled softly. I feel like I am seeing the world with new eyes. Toma turned to her. That is the gift of sharing. When two worlds meet, they can learn and grow. Mira reached out and took his hand. I am glad you brought me here, she said. Toma squeezed her hand gently. And I am glad you came. Soon, it was time to return to Vellari. Mira looked back at Earth from the ship's window. She felt changed. Stronger, braver. She had faced her fears and found beauty in the unknown. When the ship landed back on Vellari, the Queen was waiting. She smiled warmly as Mira and Toma stepped out. Tell me. My daughter, the Queen said, what did you learn? From Earth? Mira looked at her mother. That the world is bigger than we imagine. That kindness and courage come in many forms. The Queen nodded. And what of your human friend? He taught me patience and warmth, Mira said softly. He showed me how to see the beauty in small things. The Queen smiled. Then, our worlds are closer than ever. That night, Mira and Toma sat in the garden beneath the glowing trees. The paper boats they folded together floated gently on the pond. Mira whispered, I have chosen Earth as my second home. Toma looked at her with surprise and happiness. The stars above shone brighter than ever. The palace was calm that morning. The silver trees outside swayed gently in the soft wind. Birds with long tails sang quietly from their nests. The sky was clear and bright inside. The Queen sat in her grand chamber, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She looked out the large window at the gardens below. She thought deeply about what had happened over the past months. Toma and Mira, two very different people, from two very different worlds, yet they had grown close. They had learned from each other. They had found friendship, trust, and something more. The Queen smiled softly. It was time to make a new choice. She called for her advisors to meet in the great hall. The room filled with the wise leaders of Vellari, tall, graceful beings with silver skin and deep teal eyes. My friends, the Queen began. We have watched the journey of my daughter and the human named Toma. Their bond shows us a new path. The advisors looked at one another, curious. I propose a new tradition for Vellari. The Queen said, from this day forward, our youth will live among humans for a time. They will learn, share, and grow, as Mira has done. There was silence. Then one advisor spoke softly, Your Majesty, such a tradition would change much. Our people have not known this before. Yes, the Queen replied, but change is part of life. Our future depends on understanding other worlds, not just our own. The room nodded slowly, accepting the Queen's words. Later that day, Mira and Toma were summoned to the palace garden. The sun was warm, and the flowers glowed softly in the light. The Queen waited for them beneath the tallest silver tree. When they arrived, she smiled kindly. Mira, she said, you have chosen Earth as your second home. Mira bowed. Yes, Mother. And Toma, the Queen continued, you have been a bridge between our worlds. Toma looked down, feeling humble. The Queen spoke clearly. I invite you both to continue this journey, not just as friends, but as symbols of peace and hope. Mira's eyes shone. Toma smiled. The Queen took a small box from her robe. Inside was a silver ring, simple but elegant. She held it out. To you, Mira, she said, and to you, Toma. The ring was a symbol of their bond, a promise of unity between Vellari and Earth. Mira took the ring and slipped it onto her finger. Toma took the other ring and wore it on his own hand. They looked at each other, feeling the weight and warmth of the moment. That evening, Mira and Toma stood in the palace garden, watching the stars. The paper boats they had folded together floated gently in the pond. Mira said softly, I never expected this when you first came here. Toma smiled. Neither did I, but I'm glad it happened. Mira nodded. We are different, she said. But together, we are stronger. Toma took her hand. We will face the future. 2 worlds, 1 path. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if they agreed. In the days that followed, the palace was filled with new energy. Young Velari prepared to visit Earth. Humans came to Velari, curious and eager. Toma and Mira became guides and teachers, helping both worlds understand each other. The queen watched proudly. Her choice had opened a new chapter, one full of hope, friendship, and unity. One night, Toma and Mira sat quietly by the pond. Mira looked at him. Thank you for staying. Toma smiled. Thank you for letting me. They sat in silence, listening to the soft sounds of the garden. 2 hearts from different stars, beating together. The future was uncertain, but full of promise, and that was enough.